Radio Free Cybertron.
Transformers.
Rewind.
This week on Transformers Rewind, it's Auto Berserk from Generation 1.
I know exactly how you feel. Megatron and the other Decepticons envy my superiority, too.
That's why Megatron left you behind?
Yes, he's afraid I'd make a better leader.
Maybe that's why the Autobots were jealous of me.
If we had control of the Negavator, Optimus and Megatron would be forced to admit our superiority.
That would show Inferno and the others I'm just as good as they are.
Better!
I would be in charge. Me!
Of course, Red, you would be supreme!
So I love at the beginning of the episode how Optimus Prime is the one doing the countdown. Because you don't first see that as Optimus Prime. I'm like, oh, is Peter Cullen doing a human voice here? Then, oh, wait, it's actually Optimus Prime. Because there are humans there, too, like observing the Negavator, which is, like, hard to say. It's like...
How do you pick that name for this project? Seriously.
It's even harder to really explain what it actually does.
It, like,
because
blinks stuff out of reality.
Sort of changes. Yeah, except that it doesn't later, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
It also blows up at the end.
Explodes. Yeah.
This episode, I like this episode. For various reasons. One, it's like the Red Alert episode, and Red Alert doesn't get a lot of love. It's also kind of like the city on the edge of forever, so to speak. Where in the Star Trek episode, Bones is running around all crazy, and this one, Red Alert's running around all crazy.
I was waiting for how you were going to pull that back because I had no idea where you were going.
Well, I mean, but he means well, but he's crazy as can be. Because I was watching and I'm like, he reminds me of something from somewhere. And I'm like, what does he remind me of? Then I thought, oh, it's Dr. McCoy from Star Trek. And like, oh, yep, that's it. Except, of course, Bones didn't team up with Starscream in that episode. He should have.
No.
That would have been great.
Somebody's writing that crossover now, I guarantee it.
I've probably already written it. But like any other
G1,
in any other G1 episode, they just pull stuff out, of their pants that I don't necessarily get. Like when they get trapped behind the rubble. I forgot who it was. I think it was either Soundwave or one of the jets was attacking them, and Optimus Prime screams, "Stop! The heat will cook our databanks." Like, what? What's a databank?
Yeah, back.
And why will heat do anything? Like, what? What in the world?
There's something will compute our word, our robot bit.
I mean, that stuff happens all the time.
Totally.
But basically, so Red Alert gets damaged, and he goes kind of crazy. He becomes all paranoid and schizo. And
Crazy.
He wasn't exactly top-quality thinking before this,
Yeah.
No, see, that's the thing. Like, this is a pretty good episode. This is probably one of the better season 2 episodes.
And it's a good looking episode too. First I watched it, I'm like, this doesn't look that great. Then I thought, wait, no. It's like, no, it's a Toei episode, which most of them are Toei episodes, but it looks good. I mean, it starts off a little rough, but
it does.
But it gets a lot better. It looks really good.
There's a very low ratio of visible errors in this one.
Yeah.
There are still errors in it, but the animation is good, and there's some, but there's not many huge, big honking errors. Like that really obvious one where Red's mouth keeps moving at the very end.
Oh God, yeah. I actually watched that.
Because I don't have Sire note. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love that because Inferno's holding him and he's looking at him lovingly. And he's just, in my mind, Red Alert is just mouthing something to him just outside of our perception.
Sweet nothings.
Yeah.
Maybe it was censored for airing.
It's entirely possible.
I'll never let you go.
This one though is totally worth people's perception. People think this is Red normally. This is how how people think of Red.
No.
It's like,
this episode is really the only reason most people remember Red Alert.
Exactly.
At all. Yeah, totally. But he is, out of his tree in it, and people just sort of think of that as Red's normal position. He's super paranoid, crazy, deluded.
No, he's just mildly paranoid and crazy and deluded.
Yeah, just
And
mild.
then he got an electric shock, and it got even worse.
Right.
But it's not like people think of him as that being his diva. It's the same way everybody thinks Cliffjumper hates traitors. When that was like time. Cliffjumper and Mirage.
only thing
Yeah.
I
I was talking about Dreamwave's second miniseries over on the Underbase this week. And there's a whole thing in there where Cliffjumper's like, "Oh, Mirage, you traitor," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that was one time. It's not your, but Dreamwave."
Well, they watched half the episodes once.
Yeah.
They didn't have a wiki, back then to steal from. Pretty
It
much.
wasn't the wiki. That's
Yeah,
how
it
they.
wasn't.
That's how they were able to. They looked clever by knowing stuff that wasn't massively cataloged. You got to put something from Japan in something now if you want to look clever.
God.
So, what in this episode, Starscream is Red Alert is leading Starscream through like the booby traps and everything that they've set up to get back to the Negavator. So there's the tunnel drone, which is like this evil, crunching, munching, robotic Cthulhu thing. It's like pure evil, and
Who built that, and why did they build that?
If that thing gets out, it will kill every person on Earth. What kind of loving,
Wait, I'm
friendly
watching this
Autobot
and
would
going-
create that?
And I'm thinking, this looks way better than the Negavator. Why don't they? They should be selling this
Yeah.
thing.
Weaponize that.
That's a. You just got that guarding the tunnels that hardly anybody goes into. Heck, man, get that tunnel drone out there. The military would love that.
It's the thing about hand-drawn animation. You can do whatever, and it takes no more effort to do that than anything else. So let's just, I can just throw something in there. And I'm drawing it, and they could put freaking Unicron in there for all it really mattered. But yeah, that thing is just like vicious looking.
Yeah.
That should, Megatron should be going after that.
But even the way they describe it in the episode, it's not just the way that it's drawn. I mean, Red Alert talks about it like it's this indestructible mass of death that just, barrels down these corridors, killing random farm animals or things that wander into the tunnels. Like, what?
Yeah, that's a very Autobot setup for them, too.
Yeah.
And this is just under a human city, isn't it?
It's a base. It's like a military base.
Where is it, though? We don't really see, do we?
It doesn't say. Yeah, I don't think so.
It's a weird one. I mean, it's an odd one, and it's like the Autobots. Well, it's not super odd, because we've seen the Autobots, or will see the Autobots, working with humans to build assorted things in other episodes. I can really only think of the Ultra Plane from Desertion of the Dinobots off the top of my head, but there's just there's a lot of interesting stuff in this one. It's quite a tight script, There's no major suspensions of disbelief beyond the core concept. It makes good use of the characters that are in it. Grapple's in there complaining about his bunker getting wrecked, and Frenzy gets a really good show in this one too, and is like one of his 3 appearances, takes on Optimus Prime directly. And so it's just a good little Soundwave one where he pumps out, I think this is like the most number of tapes he ever pumps out at once in the cartoon.
There's like 4.
This is all he had at the cartoon at this point. This was only season 2.
He didn't use Buzzsaw, did he?
Well, no, he says Buzzsaw's name, but the animation shows Laserbeak, so whichever way you slice it, one of the tapes is missing. One of the bird tapes is missing.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's always fun when I watch an episode with both Rumble and Frenzy, because I was watching with a friend and I got to explain the whole controversy.
The color thing?
Yeah. I described it. I described it as back in the day before we realized that yes could be an answer. So it's like the question is Rumble red or is Rumble blue, and the answer is yes. And now we can say that and move on because it took like 2 decades of us fighting over that to finally go, oh, it doesn't matter.
You say that, but look at IDW, who still can't seem to decide.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I don't care about that.
So
they don't have to be the Phantom.
So toward the end of the episode, Red Alert, was it the Null Ray? So
that's Starscream's weapon, right?
Yeah.
Finally, Starscream's weapon not only does what it's supposed to do,
A vanishingly rare instance.
Yeah.
But so basically, he gets shot by the null ray, and the effects of the circuit overload, wears off momentarily, and he has this moment of clarity. But Optimus Prime isn't quite sure. So Red Alert is in the Negavator, and he's basically barreling down toward the Autobots. And Optimus is like, I think it's going to be okay. I think the null ray stopped it. He's like a heartbeat away from being nothing.
Now, about this Negavator thing. So at the beginning of the episode, we see the Negavator doing what it does in terms of like text, in terms of it makes stuff vanish, or vanish out of existence. And then later, it just sort of becomes a gun, like a generic gun. Like I don't. The Negavator aspect,
that's how they roll.
The Negavator aspect of the Negavator sort of leaves. Of which, the other thing I'm concerned about is like, okay, wait a minute. These are the like peace-loving Autobots, and they're about to hand a weapon that vaporizes stuff to the humans. What?
I don't know. It's so stupid.
Like, are these the good guys? I don't. Why?
So basically, the Negavator is set to self-destruct, and Megatron's like, "Hey, attack!" And the Decepticons are like, "Screw this, we're getting out because that thing's going to blow."
Even Starscream's like, no.
So apparently the explosion's going to be so deadly or whatever that the Decepticons leave. Then it blows up, and with the Autobots there, and they're knocked down. So I guess there's no idea of what the impact of that was going to be. But if I were Decepticon and I knew what stuff blowing up tends to do, like the level of explosive impact, I would just wait around, maybe step a few feet out of the blast radius, and then I would take that time to attack the Autobots. I don't know. I guess they're gun shy or something.
Next time, Gadget.
Maybe their brains got scrambled too.
It's possible. Then Red Alert's fixed, apparently.
Frank Welker was very busy in this episode. It was basically just him and Chris Latta.
What?
I said Frank Welker was very busy in this episode. There's a lot of Megatron, Soundwave, Frenzy, Rumble, Ravage. Early in this episode, it was like all Frank Welker.
How many did he get paid for?
Well, 3. That tends to be the standard.
Yeah, 3.
You're on there to do 3, and then if you do like a certain number beyond that, you get paid more. But then you have to remember, Frank, aside from John Stevenson as Thundercracker, Frank Welker and Chris Latta were all of the 1984 Decepticons.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, busy.
Yep.
But then Michael Caine is Red, so it's really his episode.
Yeah. Between him and Chris, I guess.
There's nothing like a buddy episode with Starscream as the buddy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good Starscream episode, too, because it's like a competent Starscream episode.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually using his brain. It's like, hey, I'm your friend.
And you can't count too many of those, can you?
No.
And it's one of the few times there's actually a bit of plausible deniability in the sense of him saying, no, my plan was to bring it back to you, Megatron. And you kind of wonder if maybe that, wasn't his plan to bring it back. You could make the argument either way. But there's enough plausible deniability to make it where it wasn't like an overt plan against Megatron.
Yeah, Megatron's not necessarily a complete dummy for not,